Pat realized it was 6:30 instead of 7.
It might have slipped faster.
Last year's city bill at this time, same bill, was 54,000 total. And this year's is 55. So it's the same, essentially. High school, you want to know high school electricity last year was 23.7. Last year, same.
28.
We are 22.
I would say 28.
I'm pretty sure it was 22.
Sure. Okay. All right. Okay, since Pat's not here yet, Jason's gonna get us started.
Okay, so first off, I want to apologize for not being able to make it there. I was feeling a little under the weather today, so I thought it best if I stay separate from everybody. So feeling better now, so I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting, the budget hearing, and call the meeting to order. And I'll ask everybody to stand for the pledge of allegiance. Adam, would you go ahead and do that for us? I appreciate it.
Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Chris Buckland?
Yes.
Carol Hadlon? Yes. Larry Megan?
Here.
Jason Newberry? Deanna Garver? Here. Tom Henning?
Here.
Okay, need adoption of the agenda?
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
I second. Motion to accept. I second.
I second.
Okay, so since I'm not there, I appreciate it. We'll do a roll call.
Chris Buckland?
Yes.
Carol Hadlon?
Yes.
Larry Megan?
Yes.
Jason Newberry?
Yes.
Deanna Garver? Yes. Tom Henning?
Yes.
Okay, and it's adopted. So I'm not sure if we have any patrons there, Adam.
No, we do not.
Recognize?
We do not at this time.
Okay, so we'll move on to our one discussion item, which is the 2021 budget.
Yes, we, last meeting had discussed the budget, and we had Randy Ford here, who is our CPA that works with us on that every year, and the board was able to ask him questions and then ask questions of Wendy as well. And so also got that by law in the Wellington Daily News and put in your board packets the affidavit saying that that was in the paper for 10 days. We have not had Wendy
No, I'm not
anyone
raising.
from the public call with anything that they want to talk about at this time, and so unless, I mean, it's up to the board if they want to discuss it further or if we want to move on to action.
I got one question, and I think this would be a Wendy question. On the Act of Resolution 2015, it says to waive generally accepted accounting principles. What are we using if we're waiving them?
Oh, for the GAAP accounting, it's just a different system as far as how you, let me pull it, how the school district does it. It's more like a cash basis instead of like an accrual system, if that makes sense. It's actually standard. I think there might be all of 10 school districts in the state that do it, and the other one, but because we are not doing it in the gap, that's why we have to have this in there. Does that make sense? You have to sign this resolution every single year.
Okay, so it's a formality.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And actually, our auditors who are here right now, they have actually, that's one piece of documentation that they ask for every year. So if you don't do that, you get a little sticky. So it's just one of
So the state
standard
makes
things.
you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Those resolutions we get from KSD.
Okay.
The state doesn't make us go away from the gap,
No, absolutely. We could do it. We
as a
could choose
board,
to do it.
not the state.
Right. Mhm.
But if we do it, we you have to make sure.
Yeah, you have to do
Yes.
it. It's a formality every
Yeah.
year because we're not using the gap practices.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Or principles, I should
Yeah.
Okay, good question. Anybody else have any questions? So, hearing none, let's move on to our action items, which is to approve the 2023 budget.
Yes, the budget has been uploaded into your packet as it was before, along with the affidavit that it has been published to the public, and so we're ready for your approval.
I move that we approve the 2021 budget as presented.
I'll second
Got a
that.
motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. So again, apologize, but let's do a roll call vote.
Chris Buckman,
say. No,
Carol Hadwin,
Yes,
Larry Mangan,
Yes.
Jason Newberry,
Yes.
Deanna Garber. Yes. Tom Henning.
Yes.
Okay, so that is passed. And that is the only thing that we have on this budget hearing. So, yes, we will adjourn this meeting. $7.
Yes.
All right.
Adam, you have call me back?
I can call you back, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you for doing that. All right.
the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All will be.
Chris Kaufman.
Here.
Carol Hadorn. Here. Larry Nemmons.
Here.
Jason Newberry. Deanna Garber. Here. Tom Henning.
Here.
Pat Luca.
Here. Need to, motion to approve the agenda. We wanted to add an executive session to the agenda.
I wasn't totally for sure what it was for. We could either add one or we could continue on to the one the non-elected personnel, depending on what the, okay.
That's the same one.
Okay.
I mean, that will work.
Okay.
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
I'll second it.
You're moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor?
I'll take a roll call. Chris Buckman.
Yes.
Carol Hadorn.
Here, yes.
Larry Nemmons.
Yes.
Jason Newberry.
Yes.
Deanna Garber. Yes. Tom Henning.
Yes.
Pat Luca.
Yes. We don't have any patrons, so first thing is we have a representative from the State Board of Education to present Washington School with an award.
Yes. Jim, come on in. You guys come on in. Jim McNeese is here. He's our State Board of Education representative. I'm here to present an award to Washington Elementary.
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I do represent you at the State Board of Education, and it's my privilege to do that. And one of the neat things about being a state board member is you get to give neat awards out. You know, good news. And I'm here tonight as part of my experience here tonight to congratulate, Washington Elementary School on being designated a Challenge Award winner. Now, the Challenge Award has been around for like 27 years. When I was a high school principal, I always thought it was one of the most prestigious awards we could receive as a school because it said two things. We were doing well on assessments, which is always good, but we're doing better than others in meeting the needs of subgroups, typically minority groups that are typically score lower on those tests. You're doing better with those kinds of students, minority and low-income students. And that is a real tribute. That's a real challenge. So congratulations to you. But a big thing is, we used to do it and it used to have cut score. But we don't have a cut score anymore. It's the top 100 schools in the state. So you're in the top 100 schools of all the schools, and there's like 1,627 schools or something, that are out there. So to you and the staff at Washington, you are doing great things. So thank you very much for what you've done. Keep it up. And help those other schools around you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell me, what are a couple of things that you are doing that you think make a difference for students?
I think our MTSS process is probably one of the number one things that we have tried to fill the gaps with the reading and the math. And then we have amazing teachers. All around from kindergarten to 5th grade. It's just the teachers. So, and every year building upon it, they work very close together. It's a very tight-knit group of teachers, paras.
A lot of collaboration.
Tons of collaboration.
And a great leader.
Well, leadership, collaboration, respect, and hard work.
Positive atmosphere.
Yeah.
Positive atmosphere.
Do you see Jenna, what grade you teach?
Yes, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Okay, so I'm Angela, I'm the principal.
I'm Gina Schnelly and I do Title I.
Amy Weston, I do 2nd grade.
Lacey Kuster and I teach 5th grade.
Liz Aguilar, I teach 3rd grade.
Amy Lowe, kindergarten.
Mary Zika, 4th grade.
Congratulations. You guys have done a great job.
All right, thank you.
Well done. I know we're not supposed to say. No hugs, no shaking. Well, you're a role model for the state, a role model for this area in terms of helping others. So I hope you reach out and do help other schools and other districts, and you keep doing the great job that you're doing. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
You
Great
guys
job.
are
Way to go.
Good job.
See you next year. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Thank you, Jim, very much.
Well, it is exciting to recognize the success, you know, and especially in these times when good news isn't always at the front, you know, and we're standing here. I forgot my mask tonight. I can't believe I forgot my mask. It's in the car, you know, and it's hard to get used to, you know. But the teachers are the ones, and the principals, and the people in the schools that are going to make a difference for all of us. You know, I do want to applaud you guys as local board members. You know, I'm going to go to Topeka tomorrow. Now I have to drive a little further, but many times nobody knows who I am. And you're the heart, you're the eyes and ears, and you're the leadership in Wellington, as other districts are, whether they be in Park City or Ugal or wherever. You know, you're the ones that are making a difference. And you know, right now your role is even greater in this pandemic. You know, because you're establishing dates, and I see that you're going to be starting on September 8th. Okay, and you know, those are personal decisions that have to be made by each community, and you made a decision, and you've got a great staff, I'm sure, and I've been here before and seen the teachers that you have around your district and leadership, and it's making a difference. And I know that they're going to be flexible but committed. You know, and you need to be both. You need to be committed to the students and flexible on how you're going to deal with it, because it's going to be interesting as we go forward. Now I'm going to give you a kind of a little report about the state board. Like tomorrow, what are we talking about tomorrow? Well, tomorrow and the next day we're going to be talking about special education. We'll be dealing with a report from SEAC, which is the Special Education Advisory Council, and I'm on that council as well. And we'll have a report on special education and update about what's happening in special education, with a focus on transition, you know, for the students who are leaving our programs and going out into the real world of work. And one of the issues that we're really focused on is giving students the opportunity, while they're still under our control and our responsibility, the skills and the support necessary to move into the world of work, and not just leave school and, as they say, you know, graduate to the couch. You know, so that's a big part of what we're doing, and should be coming down to you in different ways. Not that people are doing it wrong, but we need to do it more right than what we've been doing. So the SEAC is pushing on that. We're also receiving a report on dyslexia. We had a plan that we put together and submitted in cooperation with the legislature, moving forward. And dyslexia is it's not emerging. I have to tell you, in the 1970s, I at one time was starting a master's and become a reading specialist. And by the way, we're changing those standards, upgrading those standards as well this time. But I looked at reading, and it was such an exciting way to understand students. And here we are, some 50 years later, I hate to say that, 50, and we're still talking about it. You know, so the board had a task force put together. They spent a little over a year, came back and reported to us in the legislature, and we came up with a plan. Well, because of all of this, some of the plan parts are changing, and some funding has been redirected. There's some issues that we're dealing with, so we're going to be getting an upgrade on that tomorrow. Another issue that's before us, we'll be talking about KISA. I don't think you guys have gone through KISA.
Yeah.
Have you? Were you one of the first ones?
I'm not sure.
That's Kansas
We're in the
accreditation. What's that?
Yep, we're in the process, yes.
You're in the process.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we've only done probably about 27 school districts so far, where we've actually accredited them under the new system. And
Yeah, we're not all the way through the first.
right, I didn't think so. And
misunderstood.
yeah, and KISA is your is the accreditation process, and we'll be dealing with probably another. I think we have 4 or 5 or 7, something like that. We're going to be voting on this week to on their accreditation. And quite frankly, it's a challenge. The bar has been raised in a new accreditation model, and there's a couple of accreditation questions that some of them might be conditionally accredited tomorrow, which is a new thing. You know, and what does conditional accredit mean? That means each year now they're going to be going through the process to update the board and their community on the improvements that they're going to make as a school district. You know, so that's a big deal. The CISA process is different than what's been in the past, and it's going to challenge us not just with results or process, you know, but both. And we're looking hard at the schools and reading their reports and their CISA reports, and we are going to be challenged because in about I think a year and a half we only have about 7 tomorrow. We're going to have like 112 that'll be coming to us. And each one of those reports is about 60 pages long, so you have to bear down and do my war and peace, you know, efforts and reading. You know, but CISA is a big part of what we're doing and working on, and it's challenging us to look at the success of our students and what we're doing to make that happen. You know, it doesn't happen just by random chance. It's kind of like Washington Elementary: great teachers, great programs, and a great commitment to the success of their students. Those are some of the things that we're doing. We're going to be doing with some standards in terms of reading specialists, and we have some professional practice issues that we have to deal with. So we're going to be busy over the next 2 days on those. But probably the thing that is going to impact you the most, I think, this is only my speculation, is going to be what the regents did about a year ago. The regents are the ones that like us as a board, they're the board that oversees the universities in our state. You know, from KU to Wichita State to Fort Hays and all the others. And we had what we call the Regis curriculum that guided us. And that was the curriculum that students needed and was recommended by the universities for admission into the university. Okay? And they threw them out the window. They changed it. And the reason that that's such a big deal is that we have basically structured our curriculums and our course expectations for graduation on the Regents curriculum. Your graduation requirements are probably very close to the Regents. The state requirements aren't as stringent or as tough as the Regents to get in, but they're kind of. So what we're doing is we're having a discussion tomorrow, which is about an hour-and-a-half discussion with a presentation by the Department of Ed, and we're going to be discussing and looking at the challenge that we have now with the universities changing their graduation requirements, and that's the one where they have to have, 4 of English, 3 of social studies, 3 of science, and chemistry and biology, and physics, and all of that. That's going to be a big change. It could have a tremendous impact on your curriculum and the way you're structured. Not next week, but in the distant future, but in the not so distant future. So it's a conversation worth listening to, and I can tell you, I was a high school principal for over 30 years, and that pretty much drove my agenda. Was the graduation requirements, both those that the district had as well as those that the universities had and the Regents curriculum. So that's going to be a big deal. Lots of things happening. So special ed, transition, dyslexia, reading standards changing, it's graduation. What else can we do?
Why do they do that?
The Regents?
Yeah, does that just make it that much easier to get?
That's a question I asked. They ain't going to give me a good answer either.
Probably not.
Why?
So it's a lot easier to get into state universities now?
Yes. Yes. But it also gives us an opportunity, because when we talk about graduation now, we talk about it with an IPS, individual plans of study. And that changes, the games, because a lot of our IPSs were tied to that region's curriculum. It has the implication or the possibility that schools won't have to offer physics or chemistry. Now, I'm not saying nobody's going to do that, but as a principal in western Nebraska and Udall, Kansas at one time, it was really hard to find a science teacher to teach all those, and we had to teach them. So how do we do that? We just had to find them. But that could change. You could put individual plans related to a student when they come in, and that's their graduation requirements. I mean, it opens up a lot of things. If you're going to go to college, you're going to follow the regents and what they have right now, which aren't what they used to be. And that starts in 2022, I believe. Yes, 2022. It's going to change, but we could take this and make it work for us in light of the things that we're doing in terms of IPS, so that could be a big deal, and individual districts could re-examine what they're going to do for graduation. Not everybody needs the Regents curriculum, but it drove our curriculum so much that it made you feel like if you were in tech side, that you were kind of at the minor leagues rather than the professional leagues. That the Regents things got more accolades and had a bigger status. That could change, and so it fits right into. But we never gave that a thought because we never anticipated they'd do it. So
it was that way for a long, long time, wasn't it?
It was. I was around. It changed probably in the '80s, early '80s, where I think you weren't around in the early '80s.
I was around.
Well, they always had a college curriculum, but then they had ACT score was the separator in those days. But you could get in, then they put it all together and they raised the curriculum level. We raised the graduation requirements with them as we went forward, and everyone had this like almost tracks where you have college kids that have to have chemistry, physics, higher level math, and it dominated us. We spent a lot of energy making that happen, which was good. It's not bad, but it took away energy from other areas that we probably should have been putting an equal amount of focus on. So this gives us an opportunity to redirect our focus, to meet the needs of the individual student, which happens to be, our vision, to meet the needs of individual students and the success of each student. So there's a good side to this, but it caught us off guard, and we're going to have to work it out. That's why the discussion tomorrow. And there are any number of state committees. It's probably 4 or 5 that were in operation either before this happened or were started up after it, and they're all looking at it from different perspectives. And we kind of got to get a unifying voice. It's one of the things we're looking at too. So that's something that graduation is obviously, as you know, one of those major times in school, and it's defined today differently. Like when I graduated from high school, all you needed, if I remember right, was 16 credits. Was all you needed, and one algebra was like it wasn't even in the mix. It was just one math. And then they went to algebra, and then they threw in geometry. 2 years of math. You didn't have to have. You only had to have one science. So when they say, when I give this speech to a lot of people, I don't want to bore you with it, but when I go out and speak at different clubs, organizations, and agency groups, they say, well, school's not as hard as it used to be. Oh, wait. You only needed 16 credits. This kid needs 24. And he needs chemistry and physics. And by the way, how about if I give you the state assessment in math? Would you like to take it? Don't want it. They all say it's not as hard as it used to be. It's way harder. Kids are under way more pressure today than they were when I was in the 60s. I can't speak for the other decades. I speak for the 60s. Questions? This is called wait time.
I was kind of wondering what you did, so I appreciate the.
Yeah, I get a lot of phone calls. I had no idea what we did. I had a pretty good idea. It's more than credentialing teachers, it's very important, licensing of teachers. And then there's the other side of disciplining teachers. That it happens almost every meeting, somebody's gotten in trouble someplace. And that's the dark side. But basically, credentialing teachers, raising concerns like dyslexia that were not on the agenda, and putting that forward. Dealing with special education has been good. We've done a lot of things. But the biggest thing I think we've done as a state board is we provided a vision that we want every student to be successful. That Kansas leads the world in the success of each student, and we work at that. That's our not only our mantra, it's our vision. And so when you get into special ed, you're talking about the redefining graduation. It's all that in IPS especially. I'm a big believer in individual plans for students. That's changing the way we do school. We can't keep doing school the way we've always done. And you guys are part of that redesign, and thank you for taking on that challenge. As a Mercury school, I know you had some difficulty with Summit, and you made some changes. But I have to say this, that was your decision. Summit's working in some places. People like it, but other schools are doing other things. Then their communities are deciding how they want to do that, meeting the expectations, and the goals of the state at the same time. But you guys are in charge of it, and that's your duty here. That's why your jobs are so important, and in many ways more important than mine. We said we want to climb that mountain, and we're going to do it together. You're the ones that have to climb the mountain. I'm going to be up at Topeka saying, "Golly, hurry up!" Could be a legislator before you know it. That's right. But really, the school districts have done a great job, and we in the redesign, that effort, has challenged us in many ways. It was never going to be easy. It was never going to happen without bumps in the road, cliffs on the mountains. So you hit one of the cliffs, and hopefully you responded, and you made change course, and you let it go. Because you guys have been doing great things down here. I've been down here any number of times to present awards and recognition. So that's a testament to you and your leadership. Other questions? Takes 2 hours and 15 minutes for me to get to Topeka. And I will drive up in the morning and drive back in the evening. Any words you want to share, or anything you want to say, questions you have?
No, I don't think so. Just really appreciate you coming down and recognizing Washington.
Oh,
and they're
my pleasure.
the phenomenal educators, and all of them, and we're very proud of them.
Well, you sense the commitment and the energy in that group.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So really
Did not remind me of my grade school. Well, 1953. A lot different, So yes, thank you again. On behalf of the state board, I share with you their appreciation for what you've done, not just being part of the Mercury and the redesign, being part of Mercury Group and redesign, but also in the fact that you're continuing to lead and continuing to have success. So thank you very much. On behalf of you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, you bet.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good luck at your meeting. What are you guys doing in your meeting tonight? Okay. Well, I remember going to meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Okay. That was really interesting. So next we're going to discuss the badges, the electronic badges, and
Yes. board discussed electronic badges a month ago and wanted to continue as a discussion item. And we had discussed when we left off last, we were supposed to check and see whether buildings were set up as key cards got them into the entire building or if they were separated by doors. And they are actually, the way it was set up originally, security-wise, is it is all buildings. Each key, when we set up a key, we set it up by buildings and not individual doors. We believe that can be changed. When I contacted our tech people, they said that they were going to contact and find out whether they could do that. They felt like they could do that, and then but they felt like that it would possibly cost money to get those changed. However, they said they wanted to try to tackle that project first before they contacted the company to pull that off if needed. But really, it's up to the board on that topic, and it's kind of a board topic. So that was where I remember us leaving off on that.
So if you work at whatever building you work in, your key lets you into that.
When we assign a key, we assign it to a building, and so if you assign it to Kennedy, it's all the electronic locks at Kennedy, not just a front door or whatever. And so it would just be either effort by technology staff or it would be paying the company to change it.
I'm sure.
That's just, and I think it's possible. It's just a matter of that's what we do. So originally.
Does anybody have any?
When are they supposed to get back with you?
Who's that?
The technology on the.
Oh, that we left it off there. So I would have to then ask them to go into it. I have had them working on getting school ready, so that's not a project that we.
Yeah. Well.
So they would get back with. I mean, if we asked them to do that, if the board asked them to do that, then we would put them on that project to see if it could be done, and then if they could do it, then we would be done with it. If they could not, then we would need to contact the company too.
Are we wanting to change that? Are we going to change? What are we going to change?
Well, my only thing is that I just wanted access to the building. I didn't want access to every door going into the building, so we don't have to ring to get in. So that was my only thing, since we are elected officials. I didn't see where we have to ring a bell in order to get into the school or into the district office where our boardroom is. So, but there was all sorts of things going on in the last meeting about it. Jason brought up maybe just going in. I think, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but the city council, do they have just it for their boardroom?
Not that I'm aware of, Chris, but I don't know for sure. I don't think they've got, I know they don't have keys to outlying buildings or.
Yeah, I know you said that. I thought they had a key to get in.
We put a key code on City Hall, so they may be given that key code. I know that key code changes fairly often,
right.
But I don't know if it's given to.
So even just with that, something like that. So that was just my thing. But if we can do individual doors, I would like to go further into it. But that's just me.
So I'm sure there's master keys too, so that you can get in. Some people can get into all the buildings.
We have, whenever we switched over the system, we changed all exterior locks, and each principal has a key for their building, but we do not have master keys across the community or anything. That was part of the security thing. We used to have, it used to be an issue that over time, tons and tons of metal keys got out into all over the place. So when I actually took over last year, I had all exterior locks changed, and then we gave one to each building for emergency, and then we also have them out. There's little boxes outside for fire department or any emergency. Each police officer in town has one. But the staff only has keys to their internal classrooms. They don't have keys to the exterior doors. It's just all electronic at this point.
But you have badges that can go to every building, right?
Yes, you mean, oh, yes.
Like you have a
You
badge
can assign,
that
yes.
can go to every building.
You can assign to any building.
The list that you sent out, I can't remember exactly how many people have access to every building, every door, all the time.
Right. Yep.
And how, do you know how many?
I would have to look at that list, Chris.
Yeah.
I know that our teachers are assigned to their building, but they would have access all the time. Our custodians obviously would have access to their building. As far as the entire district, it would just be district administrators. We work with probably principals so that they can help each other out if some sort of emergency. Tech people, people who would work across the entire district. But I couldn't quote it without looking at the list that I sent out.
Adam, did you say the internal doors, are they badges or are they,
No,
they're physical keys?
They're physical keys.
Okay.
You know, like classrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're physical keys.
Is there any more discussion? Chris, what would you like us to?
Well, I'd like to see just about individual doors, if we can do that, that'd be a direction that I would like to go down. And see if our tech department can do
Just
that.
for us or just for?
I think Dina made a suggestion at the last time this came up, something about this, getting us badges, like ID badges, so that we're identified as board members when we do enter the building. I still think that would be a good thing to pursue.
I agree.
I agree with that.
That's kind of like the Lander thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
But aren't you already doing that, Adam?
Yeah,
Adam's already doing that.
we're
Jason.
planning on doing that. We're planning on doing that.
Yeah.
Yep, I thought that was a great idea from the last, we just need to get a picture from everybody to get that set up. So.
Sounds good.
On the other topic about non-school employees having a badge, you put in your board briefs that I guess just because of the coronavirus, that key was lost.
No, it was not lost. It was returned. It was kept by the person that it had been checked out to, and then it has been returned now since then.
Who's in charge of giving them?
It would be
Keys.
whoever the principal has set up in the office to take.
So each principal has rental keys?
Yes, more than likely, each principal would have rental keys, especially in the buildings such as the high school that gets rented out more often by the community, just because of the available space they have.
And that key gets into every door in the high school then?
Shouldn't, they probably have it set, well, yeah, I guess it would have to, yeah. If we have it set up that way, I guess it would have to.
Okay. It just, when I read this, it just gave me more questions. I guess, why wasn't it brought back in? I mean, it was for basketball, and basketball was over before the coronavirus, so I guess the checks and balances to me aren't there. So
we'll definitely try to do a better job at that. We have, all I know is with school shutting down, that when I checked on that situation, I was told that the badge was still out, and then I made sure that it got returned because of the situation. So when school shut down in March, that's when it got dropped for the key to come back in, and so clearly that's a drop on the district part.
And then the other things, just for the public, you know, what kind of deposit do you have to put down
For
using like the gym or something?
So it depends on, one thing that we have a rental sheet, which I can send to the board, and that is for setting up rentals by day. We do not have a specific rental as far as like a season long, like if a group is going to use it for a season. We don't have anything set up like that, which would not be a bad idea. It's more by the day. And so, but usually I believe on the form and for the season, I believe it's a $250 deposit is what is on there.
So did they pay for the electricity and stuff, or?
No.
No.
That was just a
We have a schedule for rentals if you want to rent the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a long
So
time.
how much does it cost to rent the building?
Each room is different. I don't want to quote it off the top of my head
Yeah,
without that.
we can get you a list,
Yeah.
and that
It's
goes
fine,
across the
like the
district.
auditorium is one, like for the high school, the auditorium is one price, and then the commons, and then the gym.
And we have waived the fee.
We have.
Yeah.
For certain things.
So
So,
it really wouldn't be a bad idea to set up some sort of policy on someone who gets it for a season, because that is probably not in place.
well, I think there needs to be a policy on also on who's renting. If it's up to the principal of each school to rent that, and they're putting somebody in charge, maybe we should have a policy or a flow chart, so then that way we don't have this problem. And if it was a lost key, not a lost key, but if the badge was out there, somebody could very easily get in.
Correct. Yep. And
So I
if we
guess
find out-
I'm just looking for a checks and balances and a flow chart on that, so coming up with some sort of policy just to hold accountability.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't have anything, further to say, obviously, about the one situation. You're talking about the other keys. If they're ever reported lost, then the tech people can turn them off, and so they don't work.
So they have the ability to, they just turn.
Yeah, they just turn them off electronically, and then it doesn't matter once it's reported that they're gone. So, we trust our administrators to run that process, but, mistakes obviously happen. So,
And if we waive the fee, it's always under board approval, so.
Right,
Yes.
because it was like that one time with the quilt.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And I think that fee covers the utilities
Right.
and the cleanup too, so.
Right. Do we have any checked out right now?
I would have to check with my principals.
The reason I'm asking, obviously, with this virus.
Sure. Yeah.
And-
We just talked about that in planning session the other day. I don't think that they said that they had anything. That topic came up. I don't think they said they had any rentals going on right now, but obviously.
Okay.
We kind of talked about that, last two, if we had anybody renting. Because we didn't have anybody for a while, so.
Yeah, and I don't think that they were planning on it with this going on, but.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in the reopening.
Okay.
But to get back to this, if we can table it until you can get back to see, that would be what
So the
I'd
main
like to see.
questions
But
are, so Adam's clear on what we want to find, what he's supposed to look for is.
for the individual doors to the school
I
instead of
don't
all.
see why, I want to draw this out, but I don't see why that's important.
I don't want to keep, I don't mind going and pushing my button to be admitted into the building.
So should we?
That's the way I feel too. I've never had any trouble getting into any school
No,
building.
So,
I think what Chris was talking about is key control, which probably does need a little work.
And last year, the first year, you had the badges, right?
No, we
2 years ago, right?
slowly did the
Yeah.
badges over a little time to get everybody used to it.
So,
And then we cut off the keys, not this
Right.
past July, but the July before.
Okay, we'll just get those answers. Maybe next time we can just take a vote on whether we want keys or not, or would that be all right?
Yeah, no, I think the tech guys can do it, so just matter whether the
well,
board wants
we
that.
need to know how expensive it would be.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I can find that, yeah. I
I
want
think
to,
that's ridiculous. We don't want to change any right now. We want teachers to have access to all this stuff. I mean, we want,
No,
whatever.
it should just be our badges. They can pick it up.
So are you wanting a badge to like, are you wanting a key badge? Is that?
I just don't think as an elected official, I have to ring the button to get into.
Because I think that's where we're misunderstanding, like,
Yeah,
I don't think what, like. what
the
you're
rental
discussing
keys
here-
is a separate issue.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
so
separate.
you're having an issue with the cards, but you actually want a key card to get into.
Yeah, so I don't
That door
have,
right there?
doing that way I can go in and then I go to the principal and say, hey.
So you're talking about all schools and the district office, you're not just talking about.
Right,
front door
just
there.
the schools, not the outlying building.
But when we had manual keys, none of the board members had manual keys to get into any building or the central office.
When you had manual keys?
Yes.
So you had a manual key and then
Well,
you got away
yes,
from
but-
it.
Well, years ago, yes.
Okay, so
Every,
what's the
every
difference
building.
between then and now?
Well,
But
but
she's saying the board
board
didn't.
members did not have.
The board members did, the principals had it. At the
Board
school.
members have never had manual keys to all of the buildings.
Well, I did 25 years ago or whatever, but I never used it once. I didn't.
Were you on the board?
Yes, when she was on the
So-
board.
So you're saying that you didn't have a key
Well, she
when you were on the
wasn't on the
board?
board.
I wasn't on the
But-
board when she was on the board
Okay.
25 years ago.
Okay.
But I'm saying that I never had a board member unlock the door and go in to,
Well, we need to just settle this. It's just a motion to either allow the board to have keys or not. When you say that, Adam? Or
Well,
an
then
individual.
I'll make the motion that I think, I'd like to see the board members have key access or badges to the schools. So, the motion's on.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Motion moved and seconded. All in favor?
no, we have.
Now we gotta do a
We always vote.
Chris Buckman,
Yes.
Carol Hanhorn,
No,
Larry Mangan,
No,
Jason Newberry.
No.
Deanna Garber,
No.
Tom Henning,
Yes.
Pat Zika.
No. Okay. Move on to Crusader credits.
Okay, last month, Dr. Kern, are you pulling something up?
No.
Okay, last month, sorry, I heard that, John, got a little excited. Presentation got in my head.
Yeah.
Last couple of months, we have discussed Crusader credits as a program. There has been some, I think back and forth with understanding and tweaking it a little bit with the board. I think that what we've heard is the board really wants to make sure that it is super quality at what the teachers are working on. And so we kind of got into a discussion. We actually called Pat the other day and talked to her about this just to get an idea of, where everybody was at. I know the discussion came up about whether it should be not district PD or it should be personal PD. And so I think that one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was that it was related to both district goals and personal goals, especially since they can, it's one credit per year, so it'll take a long time to obviously get there in the first place. But one thing that we really had trouble separating the two because if it is a district goal, then it is something that may be a personal goal for the teacher, but it's also a really positive thing for a teacher to focus in on something. It is our job as administration to bring in quality PD. If we're not bringing in quality PD, then that's an issue on us. And so if we bring in that quality PD and the teacher has it connected to a district goal or their goal, and they take it to the furthest point, that probably means that whether it's a district goal or a personal goal, it is being at the impact level of being presented back to the district. And so it's going to help other teachers, presentations put together to have that happen. And so, we feel pretty strongly that it's a positive no matter what with that. And so we tried to change some of the language in there to help understanding with that. And so obviously up for further discussion if you would like, and we would like to get that going before the school year starts, but not if the board's not comfortable yet.
So we added some wording that we thought covered everything. The fundamental concept for impact of an individual teacher professional development plan is that the plan promotes change in the current system. USD353 provides quality professional development that supports district goals. Crusader credits are available to support district goals or personal professional development goals. The knowledge level, professional development acceptable for Crusader credits should be quality professional development approved by the administrator and the PDC. Does that, adding that in there help to
it does for me, but
make it more acceptable for you guys?
I mean, I'm gonna hold strong with what we said in the beginning was, well, nobody's saying that you're not bringing in quality things. No one's saying that. But what we were saying was we really wanted them to seek it out on their own, which is the workshops and the things like that. And that's just where I stand is, I get what you're saying. I really do. That it is quality.
So, and either way, and I know that it was brought up, that they're already getting paid to be at the professional development, but if they go somewhere else, we would be paying them for that as well.
Oh, that's not what, that wasn't my worry or concern. It was just them seeking it out on their own, finding, if they're creating their goals at the beginning of the year, then they could be looking at the workshops, because you guys said that they have like a list of things that they could do throughout the year, pick what they wanted, and that you guys would work with them to be able to go do that. And that's where I was really on board with. They were creating their goals, and then they were seeking out the workshops and the things to implement them in their classroom or in the district, all on their own. It wasn't being brought into them and then them just picking. Because do you guys at the beginning of the year say all of your in-services what they're going to be about before? Do they? So, like, do you have a list of in-services for the year and so they can be looking at it like they would the workshops?
Okay, so they generally will know what the district goals are.
Okay.
So if it is supporting social emotional, they would know that that's what we're going to be bringing in, or visible learning. But it's also what we would want them to create a goal for.
Absolutely.
Because we want them to want to get better at those things. So that's kind of where, this would help in actually creating change or impact with, whatever that we're trying to create as a district. And that way, they could manifest that in different ways. And basically, they would need 5 hours. So they might get, 1 hour or 2 hours with one of our trainings, but they might seek out, an hour on a webinar, or maybe they're going to buy a book on visible learning and spend an hour reading a book, and, have different ways of learning that knowledge level, and then take it to the next level using all of those different things.
Well, I was just thinking, just for an example, like I think coming up in the in-services in the next few days, you're having that poverty simulation type thing. And that's brought in by the district, but if I came up with a way that I could present that to my class in say a different, not only a different way, but just a whole process that I'm going to use to set that up in my classroom and teach that and carry that out, then I would be able to, first I have to write a plan of what I was going to do with it and take it to the PDC committee and my principal. And then when that's approved, then I do it, set it all up, and then I go and teach it to someone else, and like say like a grade level meeting to, like first graders, how I would work with that in with first graders. And so I got the original idea from the school, but I took it a step further and then shared it with my co-teachers.
Okay, that all makes sense, but that doesn't make sense with what I'm taking from Jen, which is you create the goal, then you do the training. Because to me, they're gonna do the training tomorrow and then go, oh, I want to make a goal about that.
Oh, no, I see what you're saying.
When are the goals being created? And then, because to me, I feel like you're being set.
Sometimes that.
Yeah. The goals would be created early, and we could do that too. We could say,
Yeah, maybe we should
to
change the
by the
language
end
on
of
that.
the
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I misunderstood.
to me, you have to have a goal before you know what you want to.
Right. Yeah, you don't want them to look at PD and then make a goal based on that, so then they can just. I get it, okay, I get you.
But sometimes, that.
Sometimes that kind of lights up.
Thank you.
And to me, I can understand, tomorrow they have an in-service and it sparks an interest, and then they go, oh, I wanted to do the goal. Like, I really want this Crusader credit to be available to them. But I also want to make sure that it's very black and white.
Sure.
That, you know, I'm,
Yeah,
I think we're finally getting each other.
Okay.
'Cause I think the last couple of months you and Jason have both shared some things, and Jen and I talked about it afterwards, and we've been like, I think we know it, and so this, actually, I'm having light bulbs right now.
Okay.
I was thinking.
Let's tweak that.
No,
then.
I
Let's-
just, yeah, now I get it. I got what you
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So that would work regardless, because if it's related to their goal, then that fits with what you and I are talking about too. So let's,
And they have to go further than that.
Really make
Yeah.
it go so broad,
Yeah.
almost anything.
yeah, so like,
fit into the goal.
so like if, let's say, next week they all create their goals, and then you had an in-service yesterday, I'm okay if they backtrack to use that information for their goal, but I think they should have the goal first
Yeah.
before they
Yeah.
can meet.
And sometimes
agree.
the goal is even generated off of the evaluation. So, the principal may talk to them about, you
Okay.
want to strengthen your skills in this area, so then they.
And would the evaluation have been in the spring,
In
and
the
then they could go,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And maybe we need a date of when a goal needs to be set, if they're going to utilize this program, September 20th needs to be your goal needs to be put in place. So they,
yep, and I usually go into my learning plan and check all that stuff at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And that's another thing that's very nice, that they can go online and get it set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where, years ago, it was all paper.
So let's tweak that. Let's table that and tweak it, and then, even if we approve it in September, it's still gonna be enough time for everybody to start and everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's.
Hopefully, every teacher has been thinking of their goals for this year anyway, besides surviving.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because let's be a better teacher, so everything just.
Anything I can.
Yes.
One other question that I had on this real quick, and Jim may have covered it, but I'm kind of cutting in and out here, so I apologize. Where is this going to be located? I mean, and how often is this plan or policy going to be reviewed by the board? I mean, it's not what the negotiated agreement, correct?
It is not.
Right,
No, we're
so
decided against that.
it would, basically, every teacher would put in their goals in Keep 2 on the KSDE website anyway. And they could use that same goal, but that would go to the PDC. And the PDC would then either approve it or have them go back and create something else if it
We don't
wasn't
see it
applicable.
Right, I guess
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is future boards, if they look at this plan and they're like, this just isn't accomplishing what we want it to, what means do they have to adjust this or go back and revamp? I mean, where is it gonna be located at? Is it just more policy? Is that where we're
I
sticking?
would think it would be with PDC.
Yeah, it would probably be with the Professional Development Council. The point system would be set up in the business office, since it relates to that. The goals would probably be on both My Learning Plan and on Keep 2. So it would be in different parts of this would be in multiple places. And obviously, as a district program, as with all of our district programs, they can be brought to the board anytime a board member has a concern. So.
so like if we vote this in, next month, since we're tabling it now.
Yep.
Is it something where the board can ask to have like a recap of how did it go maybe in June, to say,
Sure.
this is, then we can say, we need to tweak this, maybe
Sure.
we do that.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can add that to it too.
It's still gonna take 10 years to get, it takes 10 years to use your points, so.
Wasn't it 6 years?
So if you're buying credits anyway, which you would be to get recertified, then it helps you to get there faster.
So, okay, was it like 6 years? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it
Okay.
would be, because you would get 4 credits every 5 years, and if you got 1 every year, that gives you 9, and then you would need 1 more to. So. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll figure that so much now.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was beginning it on.
No, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
So now, this will be really easy. The reopening plan,
Yes.
we're gonna discuss. Well,
Yes, so I really appreciate the board giving up their evening, come to the planning session on Thursday. We went over the summary of the reopening plan with you and really appreciate your support on that. And so I wanted to give a recap of that and continue to answer any questions that you guys have thought of since then. And so I'll let Dr. Kern keep going.
So we'll just give a recap of kind of what we discussed last week so that the public is clear. And we had enrollment on the 4th. And on that enrollment day, we wanted to find out the numbers of parents who were thinking that they wanted to keep their students home. And so we provided basically 2 choices. One was whether they were going to come to the face-to-face environment, and the other one was if they were going to be online. And of the face-to-face environments, there could be 2 different things that could happen. So if the health department tells us that we need to be 6 feet apart, we have decided that the best way to make that happen is to cut the students in half by having half of them at school at a time. And that would be a hybrid environment where we would have half of the students come in the morning and then the other half of the students come in the afternoon. But if we, for some reason, if the health department says we only need to be 3 feet apart and that the guidelines have, or the restrictions are a little bit lower and we're able to all of us get into school at the same time, then we will just have school as usual. Everybody comes to class, and depending on what the health department says, we would either continue to wear masks and continue to take those precautions until the health department tells us otherwise. So, so when we did that, we have found that about, 12 to 14% do want to go online. However, we still have some that need to enroll. So we'll be updating those numbers as we get those. Of course, our mission is to continue to provide high quality instruction, whether the students are online or whether they're face to face. And the students that are online will have the same curriculum as the students that are meeting face to face. There's 3 different environments based on restrictions. So low restrictions would allow us to bring kids in to the face-to-face environment without as many precautions, so we would let everyone come in. Moderate restrictions, which means that we would need to be 6 feet apart and wear masks, would utilize the hybrid learning environment. And then high restrictions would mean that we would be online. So, and I've explained those different environments. And just to clarify, our remote environment is not the same as virtual, because the remote is actually going to mimic what's going on in the regular classroom as much as possible. So if we are, and I've color coded these, if we're in phase 1, which is red, that means the schools are closed to students. At this time, we don't know what it's going to be like on September 8th. And as the time gets closer, we hope to be able to give this information to the public shortly before school starts, maybe a couple weeks or within a couple of weeks before school starts. But at this time, we can't really make a decision because that could change up to the day that we go back to school. But if we were in phase one, that would mean that schools are closed to students and we would have to go to remote learning. If we are in phase two, which is yellow, that means that schools are open, but there's mandatory restrictions that are enforced and alternate scheduling may be necessary. And phase three is what we hope to get to. And at this level, the schools are open to students, voluntary accommodations are considered, no group size restrictions are present, and hybrid learning is integrated into the instruction if needed. So, and regardless of which phase we're in, those students that have chosen to be remote can continue to be remote throughout the year. So we also want consistency for both students and parents. So we're asking that if the choice is to be remote, that they stick with that choice for at least 9 weeks. And at the end of that 9 weeks time, reevaluate to see if that's working. And if they are face-to-face as well, stick to that for 9 weeks. However, if a student is failing at being remote, we would consider, of course, bringing them back early, because whatever is best for that student is what we want to do.
So there is an exception to the 9 weeks, like you just said.
Right.
It's an administrative decision.
Yeah, it would be an administrative decision, but yeah, we don't want us, if a student is struggling in a remote environment, we're not going to force them to stay in that environment. And we know that the schedule will, if it's a hybrid environment, we're going to have AM students and PM students. It'll be close to probably 3 hours on each side, but we have not set those exact times yet.
Do you know when those would be set?
Well, once the board reapproves the calendar tonight, then we can settle it.
Yeah.
And have we decided how we're gonna split the AM and PM?
We're working on that. We have, there's different strategies involved with that. We're trying to, we're thinking bus students could be in one group, probably the morning group. That would allow us to have all bus systems finished by the middle of the day. And that would free up all buses and bus drivers for any activities that we're running in the evenings. We're going to need more buses and drivers than we have before, because we're going to need to social distance on buses. And usually we're used to, packing a lot of kids on a bus to go to an activity. And so it would really help us to have all those buses and bus drivers freed up for the evenings. That's one of the strategies I know that they have talked about. Others, athletes or people who are involved in activities, possibly in a later one, just things to try to help families, just try to help families out and try to help the district, like that. So it is probably not going to be a perfect system where, this letters of the alphabet is this and this letters of the alphabet. It's going to be much more, you're assigned to an AM group or a PM group, and then we try to work with families to make it happen. We definitely want to keep households together, because that way older siblings can watch kids and just trying to look out for our families and be strategic at the same time.
So if we did that, we would come to school on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. And then Wednesdays would be reserved for cleaning. So there's a couple of reasons why we've chosen to do it this way. We chose to do the morning and afternoon schedule so that we would see our kids almost every single day, and that they would be able to eat at school every day as well. So doing this would help those students both social emotionally and academically, just to support them as much as we could. Then Wednesdays, of course, we chose Wednesdays rather than Fridays, so that students, that would be right in the middle of the week where we could clean And of course, cleaning would happen again on the weekends, but that would also leave more time that the students would see their teacher. So if we didn't have school on Friday rather than Wednesdays, then the kids wouldn't see their teacher from Thursday all the way to Monday. So we thought this would be a little bit more consistent and students would be more successful that way.
If we are running activities, Wednesdays are also typically low on the activity list, and so that really helps as far as students need to do in school.
Yeah. So students that are in the remote setting will have engagement from their teachers, and every day will have that engagement from a teacher. Let's see. This is just different ways that we will provide that instruction. So all of our teachers will use the Google Classroom, and that way we're prepared at all times in case the teacher has to be quarantined, in case all of us have to be online for a while, in case a student gets ill or has to be quarantined. So we're preparing for all different ways by having our Google Classroom set up, and that's what we're working on this week in the schools.
Well, I have a question. When the kids aren't in school, the kids that are attending on the AM and PM, well, when they are not in school those days, they will also be able to receive instruction from the teachers.
So basically, like when they come in the morning, they get direct instruction all morning. So they're trying to get through everything while they're there. And then in the afternoon, rather than doing that homework at school, they would be doing that work at home. So it may be on the computer, it may not be. It may be, worksheets or workbooks that they send home. But rather than spending that time doing it there, they would send that home. So at least when we're doing it that way, that's how it would work. If we were all remote, they would definitely be doing the Google Meets and doing lessons that way, and that may be spread out through the whole day.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, thank you.
So I got a quick question too about the 3 phases. Is the health department in sync with our yellow, red, green stoplight thing, or is that just
So
our?
I met with them today actually,
Okay.
and discussed a lot of this, and they were very happy that we could adjust on the fly.
Okay.
They are, unfortunately, COVID-19 is just the nature of it is not something that you can plan for.
Right.
So, their stress about our community is that, that we are set up in something that is not good for the community, and then we're stuck in that. And so the ability to flex between these different things whenever they ask us to, based off of rising numbers or lowering numbers, they were really happy with that. We're trying to set up a system that they know that they very well know that parents need to plan and need to get things together, and that's the really tough part of this. Is we could make a decision right now on what September 8th looks like, and then that turns into a really bad decision here in a couple weeks because of numbers and whatever happens. And so we're trying to work on a system that would be friendly to families the best we could, but also support the community. And it's just a really tough balance there, because they can start getting calls one day that is showing a rise really quickly, and then they're trying to respond to that, and if we're all in school at that time, then they need us to adjust quickly, and that's not easy on parents, but it's also good on the health of the community, so it's really tough.
Can we just start with the hybrid model? I mean, no matter what, for the parents?
We could, however, the health department would, there are different things. It may be a situation where by the time we get there, they need us to be in remote altogether because of how, where the numbers are at. So it is, it's just not an easy, it's not as easy fix. And it doesn't help with planning for families at all. It doesn't.
I think what would help families or parents would be if they knew when their child's going to go, morning or afternoon, as soon as they can.
We'll have that. Yeah, we'll have that set.
Then they'll at least know be able to have some time
Sure,
to figure
sure.
out, okay, this is what I'm doing with my kid, when they're in it. If we wait too late, tell
No, that shouldn't be an issue. That's something
them, I
that
just think
is,
that needs to get out as soon as possible.
our administrators are already working.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were, I
Yep,
just,
yep.
I just think that's urgent.
Yeah, it
Yep.
is, it's a big.
Obviously, the ultimate goal would be use the hybrid as little as possible. However, we may have to, obviously. So it may be a situation where the health department feels comfortable enough to let us go full-time if we're wearing masks. And if that's the case, then, with the 6 feet rule may not apply if we're in masks. It just depends on where numbers are at in the community. So, but they were happy with their plan.
Yes, yes.
You mentioned, I think you said at the time of enrollment, there was like 12% that had signed up for remote. Obviously, there's been some additional information, maybe a little bit easier, more easily obtained by parents. So maybe they've changed their minds, or maybe the students have changed their minds. So when is the cutoff date, I guess, for lack of a better term, as far as being able to choose one way or the other?
So we would let them change their mind up to the day school starts.
Actually, I believe we have 48 hours after school starts, so that they can make a decision over this first couple of days.
And how would they go about making that change? I mean, if I've actually been contacted by parents and said, hey, I want to change my mind. So who would they need to contact in order to make that change?
They would just contact their school, Jason, and the counselor and the administrator could work with them on that process.
And I think this is a really good time to make sure that we're clear that the remote learning is not going to be anything like last spring was. We had a lot of leniency last spring as far as participation, attendance, and grading. Students will be expected to participate every single day and will be expected to turn in work every single day. There will not be the leniency. I mean, it will be just like they're in class. So with that expectation in mind, we want families to be clear that that is how it's going to be run. KSDE has made that clear to us, and we want to make that clear to families that it is not going to be as easy as it was in the spring.
The
Same with attendance.
KSD's recommendation for remote learning is 6 hours for this year, and in the spring we were at 2 hours or 30, depending on the age level.
Depending on the age level, and at the most it was like 3 or 4 hours, and students will be expected pretty much to work all day.
Yeah.
Yes.
The 6 hours, does it have to be in a certain time period?
No.
Not for remote.
No.
Not
Because
for
we
remote,
do
so you
understand.
could still do it late at night?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
We do understand that, especially some of the older kids may be watching the younger kids, so they can't, do it at the exact same time that the kids that are.
They don't have to do it in the afternoon.
Right.
Or something like
Right,
that.
but they will need to work just as hard as the kids that are face to face. I guess that's what I wanted to make clear.
Okay.
And students in the remote setting will keep a daily log that has to be signed by parents. And this is a requirement by KSDE to show that they've worked those 6 hours. So the teachers will have those activities all set in Google Classroom, but they will have to sign a log that shows that they've worked for that time.
How do they turn in that log, or who do they give that to, and how do they turn it in?
So we really haven't decided that, but I'm thinking that there will be a variety of ways, from either you can take a picture of it and upload it into Google Classroom, or you can just send the paper logs, if you wanted to the school or something like that. They wouldn't have to be sent every single day because the teacher is going to be communicating with them, but we would have to have a signed log for each day. talked about that we're going to use Google Classroom, and that if we are remote, we'll use video conferencing. Attendance, grading, testing, we will continue to expect that to be the same with students in the remote setting as well as face. And we will prepare for both settings all the time by putting everything in Google Classroom. This year, KSDE has created competencies that will help us to decide how we're going to organize our curriculum and which standards that we should focus on in order to get the most done during the year. And we are working on that this week as well. And of course, district approved resources are going to be used in the spring. We have a lot of online choices, sometimes choice boards, things like that. This year, because we're doing it more normal, we're using our district approved curriculum, and we'll be moving through the scope and sequence like we normally do. Of course, health and safety operations. Right now, from what the health department is telling us, we would expect masks to be worn by all students and staff. And today, we would still be 6 feet apart. There would be daily temperature checks for staff and students. Staff will be screened before coming to school. Students would be screened as they come to school. And the health department has explained to us that if the temperature is 100.4 or greater, and or if they have 2 other symptoms, and those symptoms could be there's several symptoms, runny nose, sneeze, sore throat. If they have 2 symptoms, we will be forced to send the student back home. We'd also find out if there's any locations that they've been that have a restricted visit time for. So 14
So say
days.
you send, I have 2 symptoms and you send me home and I come back the next day, what's on there? What do we do?
Then we would recheck that day. Unless the health department specifically quarantined that person, then
Right.
they would be able to come back and get checked the next day.
So is the school responsible to report that to the health department or the parents?
Yes, but
Yeah.
obviously the parents, Holly was working on that. I don't know that I have the specific answer to that. I know there's some FERPA issues with all this as well.
Yes.
So,
Right.
and so all that's kind of still getting ironed out, I think.
Right. And we understand, some of these symptoms are allergy symptoms
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. There's going to be kids that get sent home from, and it's probably not. It's going to be an exercise in patience for.
And so if we have a student that we had sent home, but mom calls in and says, he's got a runny nose and a cough, like 5 or 6 days in a row, and the next week comes, we'll treat that just like truancy or.
Yes, and our goal hopefully is to support that student remotely at that point. So that's,
But we'll still make sure that, if they chose to come to school, that it's like, I'm sick, I can't, we'll follow up on that.
Right. And it's the same as the student gets pulled out of line, because they have a runny nose and a cough or something like that, and it ends up being allergies, and that's frustrating to the family. At the same time, we have to follow guidelines, and so we would like to be able to be in a position to support that student remotely that day so that they don't miss out on the school. So.
And I have a question, is each school going to have protocol? I mean, you have kids riding on their bicycles, you have parents pulling up in cars. Are you gonna have staff that's gonna be taking temperatures like at the car? So if they are running a temp, the kids don't go into the schools?
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
are you gonna have like a bike line where if you rode a bike, you go in this line? I mean, seriously.
No, yeah,
Oh, you do? Okay.
Bus kids drop off.
Okay.
bus kids will get checked before they get on the bus. So
Okay.
once they get to school, if they've already gotten on the bus, then they won't have to get checked again. They can just go on there. But, yeah, social distancing outside is something that is, we're gonna have to get put together. We're gonna have to have multiple entrances to try to split things up and do it the best we can.
So is this just for the yellow phase, or is this for the
For temperature checks and everything,
green and yellow?
as far as I know, that'll be a daily occurrence. Wearing masks and temperature checking and all that will be a daily occurrence unless the guideline for that goes away.
But even under the green phase?
Even under that,
As far as I know, unless we're told differently.
until they tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going on.
Just the simple checking stuff, I believe and masks and all that is.
Yes. It's, and just from the questions you guys are asking, you're realizing how detailed this has had to be. So you had like an 87-page document that kind of covers all that. This is kind of a condensed one, but there will be like hand sanitizing every hour, and that's mandated by the state. We're not going to be using the playground. We're not going to share supplies. We're going to try to leave the doors propped open if the fire department will let us do that. We're going to close the water fountains, have students bring water bottles, or we'll provide those for them, and we have water filling stations that they can fill those back up with.
What about they bring their own, are they gonna be allowed to bring their own sanitizer? I can see that being.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll say a problem.
Of course, we won't be able to have class parties or assemblies. And we want to try to keep students from coming earlier than 7 or whenever school starts, 10 minutes before school starts. And especially when it starts getting cold.
I really think that our biggest learning curve at the beginning is going to be transitions.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're gonna dive into, and then we may have to adjust things as we go. It's going to be a learning process.
And like the 750, if they eat breakfast, they're gonna get breakfast and go to their classroom. They're not going to eat it.
Correct.
Exactly, yes. So
Where are they
that
gonna eat? Are they
In their-
eating the commons or
on
in the?
their-
In their classroom at the desk.
And then they're gonna eat.
That's.
Yeah, they'll take,
High
like
school will do
if
the same.
they pick up their breakfast, they'll go.
Yes.
So they're gonna pick up their breakfast at the school and then take it to their classroom.
Correct.
And eat there.
Because that's why a lot of kids get there at 7:30 is to eat. Okay.
That
So,
way we don't have a giant lunchroom full.
yeah, so all meals will be in containers so that they can do that.
All meals will be prepackaged.
Yeah, and we'll be cleaning, middle school and high school. Of course, they change classes, so we'll be wiping down tables between classes. One-way traffic in the hallways. We've got to limit visitors at the schools, and they, of course, have to abide by the same safety precautions as the students and staff and wear masks when they come in. And visitors will have to get their temperature taken when they come in and be asked those questions that you often get asked when you go to the doctor or any place where they need to know if you've had contact with anyone in the past 14 days who's been diagnosed and so forth. We are going to put plexiglass barriers at the front desk and limit the number of students leaving the classroom, so you're not going to have big restroom breaks where everybody goes at the same time. We'll have to monitor that.
Excuse me, Jen,
Yeah, sure.
on the visitors, this goes back to the rentals of, like the gyms and stuff. Are we gonna stop renting because of this virus, because of the cleaning?
Yeah.
Or outside, obviously the rec is part of the school,
Yes.
so are we gonna go ahead and just say,
Yeah,
We're not gonna have that.
I don't see any administrators making a decision to have a mass gathering. in school.
Okay, can we put that in here then?
But,
You can ask the others.
yes, yeah, and, you know, we've even been doing that with in-service this week, you know, we're not having convocations, some of the big things that we've always had, so. But yeah, Chris, good point.
So students that do come in with a fever, if it's not caught at the car, if they get a fever later in the day, so forth, we will have, we'll have a place where they can go and wait. But what we plan on is that if we can keep students, especially at the elementary, in their classrooms, then, you know, if somebody does come down with it, then we don't have to evacuate the whole school. And we would just concentrate on cleaning in those areas. Of course, student seating is assigned seating. We're not going to be using our flexible seating that has soft fabric on it. Everyone will sanitize before coming in and going out. We're going to ask that students bring mechanical pencils. I mean, even little things like that, like touching the pencil sharpener or staplers. We're trying to prevent all of that. And same with secondary classrooms. So we've kind of gone over that again in secondary. All foods prepackaged. I think we talked about all of that, the transportation, and how we're going to separate, except you can set by family members, but then we're going to separate between families. There'll be, of course, cleanings on the buses. And in the remote phase, of course, no busing and no athletic events. So we will continue. I mean, Shelby's done an amazing job of getting the communication out, and as soon as we know anything about when, you know, how we're going to start the year, we will get that out to the public.
How will we tell parents? I mean, how will we tell parents?
Yeah,
I would assume we release it, the full document, and then some sort of condensed version with visuals and just different ways online, on the website.
84 pages is pretty scary.
Yeah, it is, and it's mainly as a guide for teachers, so that they know what to do.
This is,
But are you asking about like when we're gonna, how we're gonna start
Yeah,
school?
how are we gonna notify parents?
Yeah, we'll blast that out everywhere, Facebook,
I think the best way.
Yeah, text alert,
Yeah,
we'll
text
do all.
alerts.
Read.
Yeah, and that may be a constant this year as the health department monitors things, that'll be a constant this year of how we communicate that.
So as of right now, fall practices start on August 17th unless the health guidelines change. And we just put a link on here because the guidelines were changing so often that we couldn't keep up with it. So it is on there. And then the parents meeting is today and tomorrow. And yeah, just more policies for Keisha.
Luke Smith did a good presentation. I saw it on
Yeah.
Yeah, we
today.
did a virtual parents meeting.
Virtual, yeah.
Is that online somewhere?
It's on the website.
And remote students can participate in activities this year,
Yes.
as long as they're part of USD353's remote learning.
Yes, they must be part of our remote program. And that is kind of a synopsis, and we will we'll post this on the website if you've approved this, and we'll also post the really long one if somebody wants to get into the details of it.
I know it's in here somewhere, but I can't find it now. Playgrounds,
Yes,
are they supposed to stay off the playground
Yes.
equipment?
Yes.
That's too bad.
I know. But they're only gonna be there a few hours, so they could get some exercise on the other half of the day.
Yeah, it just depends on what we're in, so.
If we're in the green, if we all go, will lunch still be the hour and a half?
No, if we go full on, we'll have a regular school day.
Yeah.
If everybody goes to school, yeah.
And will lunch be eaten? Not to be.
Lunch will still probably need to be in the classroom unless the health department says that we can adjust that. So,
It depends on how close we all sit.
But you're setting up to give everybody a prepackaged meal
Yes.
and go eat it in the classroom.
Right.
And remote students will be able to eat as well, so they can, yes, they can pick that up, and we're working on, I think, Wendy, they can do, maybe pick up breakfast and lunch together.
Yeah, I do think there's gonna be a way to make that happen.
So, but if it goes back all green, full attendance, lunch will still be handled prepackaged.
I believe that's the,
I think that's what
Eat in the
OPA
classroom.
has set up for the year is eat in the classroom will depend on health guidelines. So if they allow us to go back to the lunchroom, then we'll absolutely go.
Okay.
If they will, we need to be set up to be flexible to do either one depending on,
Yeah, that's the difficult part.
Yeah,
If you're wearing masks, it's green, you're still wearing masks. And
yeah,
it's
it's,
kind of hard to eat and drink though.
it is all gonna have to be super flexible and it's doesn't make it easy because we all want black and white answers because that's what our brains are dying for.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately, this is not that way.
I don't know if I've been reading their schools, Macy's came out with theirs, and I read Open's thing on here. So I don't know if it's ours or somewhere, someone is, parents can go online and plan their child's meals, so you have a head count, or was that us? So you can, you can choose.
Yeah, so what we're discussing right now, which isn't set in stone, because OPA does need to be able to plan and know how much to prepare for. Parents will get the menus ahead of time, just like they do right now. So parents may be sitting down with their students and deciding Monday through Friday that week. And then the following Monday through Friday, just so that way OPA can kind of get an account.
So will that be online? There'll be a place that you go online and do that,
Or the teachers will send them out. It'll probably be different, probably for high school, middle school, and elementary, just depending on what works best for the school.
try to see where they're at.
Yeah, we'll have to get more information on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions you have for us?
Is
I
the
just
middle
want
school
to
having PE?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is the middle school having PE? Was asked that. So
They will have some sort of break, whether it be, it's, once again, it's gonna depend on health guidelines and what they allow us to do. If we're super locked down, then the PE teachers could come and do some sort of brain break in the classroom, all the way up to, having PE. So it's just gonna depend on where we're at.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a question.
Okay.
There's other illnesses besides COVID
Yes.
that mimic the same symptoms. And you guys had two of the same symptoms. I mean, so you can have a regular cold with a sore throat and a cough or a snotty nose.
Okay.
So how's that gonna be handled? I mean, because
we will just have, we have to handle it remotely because.
so it just a tip, like my kid caught a cold, I'm just trying to be really real because
Yeah, sure.
we've all sat in an elementary and listened to every kid cough.
Yep.
And so I'm just trying to be, and
If
so
they
I'm
have
just trying to
documentation from a doctor that they have a cold or is that?
Yeah, I mean, like really, like my son, if he was to get strep throat and that's a sore throat and a
Sure.
fever.
Sure.
If he went to the doctor, of course, 24 hours later, he's considered not contagious. So if he had a note that said it was strep, he can come back in 24 hours. Is that something? This is a real question that I'm sure parents are.
Oh, yeah,
wondering
no,
about.
I agree. And that's one of the, that's one of the concerns with this. So our school nurses would work with the health department to guide us through that process. Because you're right, there's gonna be a lot of that stuff that comes in.
Yeah.
We're anticipating every scenario.
I'm just like, you're gonna have, I mean, if, for 2 symptoms, you could have an entire classroom
Oh, yeah.
for 2 weeks.
Oh, easily.
So
That is something really that could be answered real soon if you have a doctor's note or something that says, this is what I have.
Sure.
Not really do it case by case.
Yeah.
Well, you would, but if the doctor
Yeah.
says,
well, yeah, especially if it's like strep throat or something
Right.
completely different. I mean, that
Yeah,
but an antibiotic would take care of in 24 hours. And I would want my kid to be back in school if he could.
Yeah.
So.
And of course, Holly asked me if she needed to be here, and I said no. So,
Well,
Yeah.
and also, I think, and that brings up the testing, which we have no power over. But there again would be the health department, and I would say the parents' communication. But you're exactly right. We know how kids are.
They're gonna take off their mask and see.
Yeah,
yeah, well, you can have a cough for a week and it could just be.
Yeah, it's
I know.
just, yeah.
it can just be drainage.
Yeah, and if the doctor says,
We were asking the same questions and
Well, it's the same way with
Same thing.
teachers.
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
we'll
how
work through
many
this.
adults have you sat next to? They coughed and you go, oh my gosh. Or you coughed and you go, oh,
Yeah.
do I have it?
Luckily, we have 2 amazing school nurses that
Yeah.
work through those situations with us and give us good advice. And Holly was with me today when we met with the health department. They have a good relationship. So we'll just have to work through those cases.
Good question.
Yeah, it was a good
we
question.
have a deadline is when we're gonna say what.
I have our next meeting with the health department's on the 24th, and I would love to be able to say something at that time. I know that they are concerned for the community for us to make a decision on that too soon, because they don't know what the next few weeks look like, so.
I know Labor Day weekend's gonna be here,
Yes,
and so,
and we're starting athletics up. And
yeah, I think we should
there's,
just say we're gonna start hybrid.
well, the board
Just
can,
because.
the board can make a different decision.
Nothing
I'm
about
just,
like all
I'm
of that.
giving you advice from the.
You know, we're asking parents to, when you make your choice, to wait.
So you're just wanting to be like, prepare for the hybrid. Be like, on September 8th. Don't be thinking that you're gonna go all day, every day. Just be like preparing for the hybrid and then.
There's a chance we can open up reading, we can.
I know.
Yeah, there's a chance.
Here's my
But I
next question
think
again.
people should think of, prepare for the hybrid.
Which would be the half
They
day.
have to prepare for everyone.
I just,
Yes.
It's important too.
I'm sorry.
It'll come to me.
Yeah, this will be frustrating, but the environment that I'm seeing, I would not be surprised if I am sending out a weekly message on Wednesday for what the following week's going to
That's
look
my next thing.
like. And that, we'll get into some sort of pattern, but that, there has to be some way to both support education and support our families and also support the health of our community. And so that's just the balance there.
So if we ask parents to stick with what they choose for 9 weeks,
Yes.
will we do the same? I mean, we can't, I know
No,
if
we
we're
can't.
green, we can't. But will we go back and forth from one to the other within, or are we gonna say we will stay for 9 weeks and whatever? If you
Yeah,
can. I mean, I know you can't say we're gonna stay in green, but if you're in hybrid, you stay that way for 9 weeks, or if next week or the following week?
Yeah,
Can we flip back and forth quickly? I mean,
I
are we
think-
gonna say we can do that, or are we gonna?
I think,
That's what he's saying. We gotta be able to flip on it.
I think if it was up to the health department, they would want us to be able to react quickly.
Whether positively or negatively.
Yes.
I just,
To switch back. Now, I would, as a superintendent and father and everything else, I would really like to, us to go a full week
School, yeah.
the same,
Right.
But But, you know, week to week, I'm not sure because of the way the numbers go up and down on this particular disease.
Like I said, I've just been following all the districts I can follow, it just seems like most of them are choosing one for 9 weeks and not flipping back and forth.
So you're thinking like you might change it at the end of the week? And not-
Well, I don't want to do the end of the week, I want to go.
Don't split the week up, just,
It's, we'll see how it all.
and maybe you could notify everybody on Wednesday, it looks like we're heading towards,
Next week
we're heading towards this.
Well, and the health department is the key here. It's not really any of the people that are sitting at this table, it's the health department.
And we listened to a webinar, Randy Watson, and he said that they're trying to get more concrete guidelines for us so that we'll be able to know, if your community is at this percentage, then you should do this. So
KDHE is working on that.
Did I understand the other night that the first week, since it's a Tuesday, that we're gonna go all 4 days that first week?
We're going all 4 days, but it depends on, you mean if we're,
Yeah, if
if
we're
we
all in
started in
school,
hybrid.
yeah.
If we started in hybrid, we would try to go all 4 days, yes, without the Wednesday.
Right.
and that situation. Yeah. But that was only if we're in hybrid, so.
Hey, Adam, I know it's been talked about several times as far as the mask,
Yes.
but if you don't mind elaborating on that a little bit for the public, that's the way I understand it, we're still following the governor's orders.
Yes.
There, correct?
Yeah, there is obviously disagreements out there on that, but the governor's order is that all students and teachers, everybody will wear masks in the building at all times, unless they're eating, unless they have some sort of disability that causes harm to wear a mask. That we need documentation on. There's some specific things that, if it was a harm to someone, that would be an issue. But yeah, it's at this point it's masks at all time, and that's on governor's order.
And our council recommendation has been at this time, you follow that governor's order, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's everybody, all the way down to kindergarten.
Correct. Yep.
Do we need a motion?
So, yeah, if you're happy with what we put together so far, we went from 4 pages to 84 pages on you. So, so if you're happy with where we're at, we would love to move forward with.
And all the links on the website, like I read that for the elementary, and that's really good, I think, about the she put together.
the big one is not on the website yet, because you probably saw at the end, we're still trying to put that in. Make it pretty.
So are you making a motion for the startup or the calendar or everything?
No, I think it's just a continuation of the document.
Okay.
That you're happy with the work we've done up to this point.
Okay.
Which will change.
One more wild card to throw out there real quick.
Yeah, which will change in an hour. Go ahead, Jason.
You're seeing a lot of stuff on national news. Any word, you don't know what to believe on and what not to believe. But there's been some schools that have tried like signing waivers. Has there been any thought of that or talk about that in Kansas that you've heard of? I personally have maybe some reservations there, but is that even a thought that's out there?
I don't know that we've had a lot of talks. We have waivers for our athletics and our activities. We actually started those waivers this summer with some of the summer things we were doing. As far as just regular school, I don't know that has been talked about.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, they were referencing directly towards like a COVID waiver.
Right.
There is such a thing.
There is such a thing for the sports.
Yes, we've been doing that since the summer, and I believe Luke was continuing that this fall, just
That's a
because
requirement.
there's contact in those, and it's can't be tougher keep people 6 feet apart, but I don't know that that's been talked about for the schools, but it's something I can look into if the board's interested.
No. I'm not quite sure how to make the motion.
Just the approval of the continued reopening plan document. We just want to keep the board up to date as to what we're doing. And you've already approved the document when it was at 4 pages. It's just a matter of continuation of that.
It's evolving.
Evolving, yes. We just don't want to. We want to be communicating.
I move that we approve the reopening plan that has been submitted.
I'll second that.
The moving second to accept the plan as presented. Roll call vote.
Chris Buckman,
Yes.
Carol Hydorn,
Yes.
Larry Megan,
Yes.
Jason Newberry,
Yes.
Deanna Garber,
Yes.
Tom Henning,
Yes.
Pat Duca.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lot of people work really hard, so
Yeah.
appreciate our people.
Thank you.
Teachers came back today and have been working their tails off all day today, and we'll keep going. And so you saw our Washington staff here tonight. We just have great people, and they'll do an amazing job.
Okay. 2021 calendar, that then changes because of the late start.
Yes, so the board moved the start date to September 8th based off of the health department's recommendation. And so the board also had asked the staff put options out there for the staff. And so at the planning session the other night, I told you the percentages of the different calendars that were presented out to the staff. So they received options, and the winning document by about 60% was, or the winning calendar, I should say, was to add 15 minutes to the school day for the rest of the calendar year from September 8th to May 21st, which was the original end of the day. So that adds up to getting us all the required hours by the state for this year. And then we would return to, it's been talked about in negotiations, we would return to the original times next school year, unless a different decision was made, depending on how this all goes. So just looking at for a motion to approve that, adding 15 minutes
This
to
year
the
we
school.
split up between them.
So it's gonna be 7.5 in the morning, 7.5 minutes in the afternoon.
If we were in hybrid, yes.
If you're hybrid.
If we were in hybrid, then that's the way it would work. We would split up the day with the total amount of time we have. We would split that up.
So if it's full blown, it is be 15 minutes.
15 extra minutes. Yep.
So everything else is the same as
Correct.
it was.
Correct.
It's all gonna be over with by May 21st.
Correct.
And we're gonna start on September 8th.
Correct.
And everything in between there is still the same.
Between you mean the days that we?
Well, in between those two dates. Well,
Yes,
except-
yes. Everything else is the same.
except
Yep,
this one.
yep, yep. Everything else is the same.
So we still get 171 student contact days.
Actually, those numbers up at the top there actually probably need to be adjusted if you're talking about days. We would need to talk about some of those things in negotiations, and then I would change those numbers, because technically in the negotiated agreement, it actually has the end time for school. And so since we're adding 15 minutes, which the teachers are being great, technically we're adding days. So I would need to.
Okay, so it's gonna be adjusted.
Yeah, we'll adjust that once we get through those
Okay.
talks.
Do you have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the 2021 calendar as it is and modified for 15 minutes added to each school day, beginning September 8th.
A second.
We moved second to approve the calendar for next year presented, and the 15 minutes. Roll call vote.
Chris Buckman?
Yep.
Carol Hydorn,
Yes.
Larry Megan,
Yes.
Jason Newberry,
Yes.
Deanna Garber,
Yes.
Tom Henny,
Yes.
Pat Baker.
Yes. Go to executive session for,
We need a break.
Oh, yeah. How many minutes?
Let's do 30.
Okay.
With the break.
stay awake?
Yes, but you want to take a 5-minute break and then 30
Yes.
minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, I move we go into executive session, including Mr. Hatfield and the administrative team to discuss, non-elected personnel,
Yes.
for 35 minutes to resume with a 5-minute break. So we would start at 8:55 and come back into session at 9:25.
So you mean 30-minute session?
Yes.
You should say
Yeah, amen. It's a 30-minute, with a 5-minute break, 30-minute
Our break.
I'll second.
You got that down, Shelley.
I got it. Making it difficult on me. 4:30.
No.
I seconded it.
We got a motion, we got a second. All right, Chris Buckman,
Yes.
Carl Hadorn,
Yes.
Larry Megan,
Yes.
Jason Newberry,
Yes.
Deanna Garber,
Yes.
Tom Henny,
Yes.
Pat Baker.
Yes.
All right.
the health department.
I know, I just, I know parents, they need to
No, I know.
know, I know, they need to know.
Yeah, yeah.
I just,
It's just really tough. There's no right thing to do, that's the
no,
problem. That's the problem.
I don't know if I really want to schedule another one, but we could always have, I mean, just like we just did, we could just have
Planning
one in case, a planning session if there's something that's
Yeah,
necessary.
I'll feed you guys information, and if you guys want to have a session, then let me know. Okay. Anytime, if you haven't noticed, typically on a week that we meet in person, I've given you all the information I can, so I don't typically send you a board brief. But a week that we don't see each other at all, I always send you a board brief on Friday. So that's kind of my pattern on that.
Yeah.
So, we're back. Okay.
You ready for the consent agenda?
Okay, approve the minutes of the July 27th special meeting, approve payroll bills, payroll, $179,072.21, bills, $928,704. Approve new personnel, Neil Kraut, Paris, WMS, Todd Larkey, head forensics coach, WHS, Vanessa Sawyer, assistant girls golf coach, WHS, Connor Burnett, assistant football coach, WMS, Brandon Starkey, social studies teacher, WMS, Jaden Ledesma, assistant girls wrestling coach, WMS, Tracy Smith, yearbook sponsor, WMS, Kelsey Whaley, special education teacher, WHS, Rhonda Starks, para, Lincoln Elementary, Lori Wright, Shinsato, para, WMS.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
So moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. Roll call vote.
Chris Buckman,
Yes.
Carol Hadamar, Larry Jenkins,
Yes.
Jason Newberry. He's trying. Jason.
I don't know, it's not coming out on that. Jason, can you hear me?
Jason's in the black hole.
Yes.
Downer, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Say yes.
I had a headset on, it just disconnected for some reason.
Okay, no problem.
Do you approve the consent agenda?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. Leanna Garber,
Yes.
Tom Henny,
Yes.
Pat Leader.
Yes. Okay, board comments. Had lots of comments all night long, so.
Yeah, and I did want to let the board know, because of social distancing in this room, I've been telling the administrators they don't need to come until we're back to 6 feet together, but we can always move, like we did the other night, we can always move to a different building or whatever if you want them here.
They have enough to worry about.
Yes, I know, I'm just letting you know,
Lions Club is working on the ticket booth down at the football field. This all started, Don Rager, a longtime Lion, and he always worked the ticket booth. He passed away last September, so we asked if we could put, in memory of Don Rager. And so that started, that the ticket booth needed some sprucing up. It's pretty sorry looking. So Perry Wiley mainly has been the guy down there. You ought to see it. He's made a lot of improvements already, so that's good. I know someday we're gonna tear that ticket
Yeah,
booth down,
that's
but we're sprucing this
Yeah,
up.
and when we do, we can put something on too.
Sure, yeah.
When's the first football game, do you know that?
September 4th, I think.
Okay. I hadn't even looked at
Yeah, September 4th.
I'm like, it's gonna be like,
that. No, because we don't have it on the stadium. In the states, we're still gonna have it.
College doesn't do it,
Okay, anybody else? Thank you, everybody. All of us, the administration, I know you guys all put in
A lot of work,
lots and lot of work,
appreciate it.
and there's still lots more to go.
I know.
So we can't please everybody. I just want, people to know that we all have kids' best interests at heart, and we know how hard it is for these parents, and it's hard for everybody. We just wanna do what's best and let people know as soon as we can. Go from there.
I want to thank Jason and Deanna. We've had week after week in negotiations, so I've had them really, really busy, and so appreciate their support on that.
It's important. Anybody else? Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.